What's up guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Hope you're having an amazing day, and today I am going to be going over my T20 World Cup predictions because the tournament, it starts this weekend and I am very excited for this. There's going to be a lot of great highlights, a lot of great players to look out for, and yeah, I'm just hoping that my favorite team, Team India, we can go out and win this tournament because it's definitely been a while since we did it last time, and so it'd be really cool and I'd be really happy to see us do it again. So with that, make sure to remember to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, share, comment, do all that stuff because a lot of new content is going to be coming to the channel for sure. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Roll the intro.
Jack it up.
Alright guys, here we are. So obviously the T20 World Cup starts with the group stage. So in the group stage, there are going to be 8 teams divided into 2 groups, Group A, Group B, as you can see. So now for the teams, we'll start with Group A. So in Group A, first team we got is Namibia. Second team we got in Group A is the Netherlands. Third team we got in Group A is Sri Lanka. And the fourth team in Group A is none other than the UAE, United Arab Emirates. Alright, we're moving on to Group B now. First team in Group B is going to be Ireland. Second team in Group B is going to be Scotland. Third team in Group B is going to be the West Indies. And the very last team in Group B is none other than Zimbabwe. So that's just an overview of what the teams are in the group stage. And I'll be going over predictions for each of these teams, who I think they'll win, lose to, and all of that stuff. So let's get right into it. First, I'm going to start with Namibia. So Namibia, they are the first team that is in Group A, and the opening game of the tournament is going to be between Namibia and Sri Lanka, and I do think that Sri Lanka is going to come with it, so I do think Namibia will lose that game. However, not for long. I do think next game they got the Netherlands. I think they will end up winning that game. I do think they have a good squad. Namibia has Erasmus, David Weiss, a lot of other great players on their team. I think they're going to help them beat the Netherlands. And then finally, Namibia versus UAE. I think that Namibia will get that win and get 2 out of 3 wins in the group stage in Group A. We'll see if that's enough to qualify or not later in the video. Next up, we got the Netherlands. So you already might know that I did have them lose Namibia. However, I do have them beating UAE. Obviously, I have them losing Namibia, and I also have them losing to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, I think, is going to win this group, as you can see in this next part here. I already have them beating Namibia. I definitely think they're going to beat UAE. I definitely think they're going to beat the Netherlands 3-0. That's going to be number 1 in the group, and so we'll see where they'll be later in the video in the Super 12 stage. Finally, UAE, I do think they will, sadly for them, end up losing all their games. They're just too much competition for them. I mean, they're kind of in a tough group here, so I could see them maybe beating the Netherlands if anyone, but I don't think they'll beat them. Maybe I don't think they'll beat Sri Lanka for sure. So, but I do have them losing all their games here. Alright, we're going to start with Ireland for Group B. I do have them losing to Zimbabwe, as you can see. I think that Sikandar Raza is going to be very good this tournament, and I think that Ireland just cannot keep up with him or with the entire Zimbabwe team. Second, I do have them losing to Scotland. I think Scotland, they were a really good team last year actually. While they did end up losing all their games in the Super 12 stage, they were still very, very good in the group stage. They ended up beating Bangladesh, which is really quite the upset there. I did not think they were going to do it back then, but they did end up doing it. So I could see them making some noise here, but I also do think that Ireland will lose to the West Indies. I think I see the West Indies as the favorite in the group here. They're a clear favorite. And second place here is kind of a toss-up between Zimbabwe and Scotland, as you will see later on. Speaking of Scotland, that's the next team. I do think they will lose to the West Indies. As you can see, I do have them beating Ireland, but I do have them losing to Zimbabwe. However, I could see this game going either way. I wouldn't be surprised if Scotland did end up winning this game and taking second place in the group. And speaking of second place, I will get to that later. But first place, boom, boom, boom. West Indies 3-0. I think they're the clear favorite in Group B. I think they will definitely make the Super 12 stage. They are significantly better compared to all these teams, and so that is why I think they'll go 3-0 in this group stage phase. Jason Holder's been very good. I think that Akil Hussain has been been on the rise quite a bit recently, and a bunch of other players like Nicholas Perron, or even Lewis, Robin Powell, they're all going to help contribute to this. They're all going to help contribute to the West Indies going 3 for 3 in this group stage phase. Finally, Zimbabwe. I do have them beating Ireland. I do not have them beating the West Indies, but as you saw earlier, I did have them beating Scotland. Again, wouldn't be surprised if they lost here, but we'll see what happens. So that means group stage results: Group A, first place, it is going to be Sri Lanka. Next, Group A, second place is going to be Namibia. Group B, first place is the West Indies, and Group B, second place is Zimbabwe. Now with that, let's move on to the Super 12 phase. Alright, as you can see, here we are in the Super 12 phase. Not only Super 12 not yet, you can only get 8 teams, but we're about to add the 4 teams that qualify for the last phase of the tournament into this phase. So that would be Sri Lanka and Namibia. Sri Lanka is going into Group 1, Namibia is going to Group 2, and then we got the West Indies in Group 2 and Zimbabwe in Group 1. So these are the groups. Now let's get started with Group 1. So Afghanistan, I think they do have a good team. Rashid Khan, one of the best spinners in the world, and Mohammad Nabi, very good all-rounder. I think he's been very good for Afghanistan, both in the past. He's really good now as well. Ramanullah Gurbaz and Ibrahim Sidran, I think they're both solid. I really like them both, and I think they're definitely going to do well in this tournament for Afghanistan, because Afghanistan, they've been on the rise recently. For example, they almost beat India in the 2019 Cricket World Cup. They were going to beat India until, Mohammad Shami came in, did his heroics, got a hat trick. But Afghanistan was so close to beating India in that tournament. I definitely think they'll make some noise here. However, their opponents, let's just say they could have been better. First game they got is against England, and their second game is against New Zealand. I do have them losing both of those games. However, Zimbabwe, I think that's going to be an easy win for them. And then Sri Lanka did just win the Asia Cup, and while I think that Sri Lanka has a lot of confidence, and so I think that Afghanistan will lose this game. Australia, I don't think Afghanistan is going to beat them. Australia is going to be a very good team. They are the hosts, and like we've seen in past ICC tournaments, hosts do have a bit of an advantage, especially in Cricket World Cups. Hosts have won past few tournaments when it comes to this, and so I definitely do think that Australia is going to win this game against Afghanistan. Second, Australia, the hosts. Their first game is going to be against New Zealand, the final rematch from the previous edition, 2021. And get this, I do think that New Zealand is going to get the win here. I kind of feel I feel revenge going on here. I do think that New Zealand, they're going to realize the importance of this game. They're going to go out and beat Australia in their first game, get a huge win there. But Australia, I think they're going to dominate the rest of their games. They're going to beat England, they're going to beat Sri Lanka, they're going to beat all those other teams. They're going to get an easy 4 wins after that first loss, bounce back very, very well. And England is the very next team. So England, obviously they're a really good team. Joss Butler, we all know what he can do. He is one of, if not the best wicketkeeper batsman in the world. And then you also have people like Moeen Ali. He's been a very good all-rounder for them. Johnny Bairstow's been very good. And they have a lot of other really amazing game changers on their team that can definitely turn the tide of a game around to their favor. And so England, first 2 games are going to be easy wins. Australia, as you saw previously, I do think England will lose. However, I do think England is going to beat New Zealand here. I do think they're going to beat Sri Lanka. They also get 4 wins. So how do you think New Zealand's going to do? New Zealand, they are the next team. New Zealand, I already did have them beating Australia. I do think they'll beat Afghanistan. I do think they'll beat Sri Lanka. I do have them losing to England and the other being Zimbabwe. So we have 3 teams in this group that are at 4 wins. So you're just going to have to see later to see which 2 teams advance. This was a very tough decision to make. However, you'll see what happens in the end. And then finally, Sri Lanka. First win is going to be against Zimbabwe. However, I don't think they'll beat Australia and New Zealand. They will beat Afghanistan. They have a lot of confidence tournament. They're not going to meet England, but I think they will get 2 out of 5 wins here. They just won the Asia Cup. They definitely have a lot of confidence. Vinod Hasaranga, very good all-rounder for them. And he's definitely one of, if not their best players. So I definitely think that Sri Lanka is going to get 2 wins out of 5 in the Super 12 phase. And then finally, we're on to Zimbabwe. I do not think Zimbabwe is going to win any other games. All 5 games are going to be losses for them. And so, here we go. First place in Group 1, I do think will be Australia. They have a lot of really good batsmen on their team. They have a lot of people who can get a lot of runs for them. And I think they'll end up helping them get first place in this group. However, comes down to this. Second place, is it going to go to England or is it going to go to New Zealand? This is all based on net run rate. If the actual tournament happens and New Zealand advances into England, Australia still gets first, then that would be kind of sad for predictions. But anyway, I do think that England is going to advance in the group. I do think New Zealand, after reaching the finals last year, I do think they're going to fall just barely to England in the group stage, just because of how competitive this group is. You have Australia and England in the same group as you. You have a few sneaky teams in there that could maybe beat you. Sri Lanka, Afghanistan could maybe beat you. And so I do think that New Zealand is going to be the odd one out here. I do think Australia and England will both advance to the semifinals. And with that, I am now going to get into Group 2. Alright, so Super 12, Group 2, we are starting with Bangladesh. I think they have a pretty good squad. We all know Shakib Al Hasan, one of the best all-rounders in the world. I think he's going to have a great World T20 this year in this edition. But when it comes to your opponents, there are some really tough opponents in there like India and Pakistan. But they also have some winnable games. Take a look at them now. Namibia, first game. I think it's an easy win for Bangladesh. I think they're just the better team. And so I think they get a really comfortable win against Namibia in the first game. South Africa, though, I think that is a loss. South Africa, they were a really good team last year. They almost finished top 2 in their group. They almost made the semifinals. But because of how good England was, because of how good Australia was in their group, and because of how good their net run rates were, South Africa, they were very close. But because of that net run rate, they could not make the top 2. However, I still think they are a very good team. I still do think they have a lot of great players, namely people like Kagiso Rabada, David Miller, Temba Babuma. We all know about Quinton de Kock. So they have a lot of talent on their team. So I think that's going to be a loss for Bangladesh, though. South Africa has a lot of talent. I think it's all going to come to fruition again in this game against Bangladesh. West Indies, though, I'd say that's a win. So again, Bangladesh has a better team when it comes just all around, to be honest. So I think that's going to be a win for Bangladesh. The next 2 games, though, India, Pakistan, those are both going to be losses. India and Pakistan, they're the 2 best teams in the group. And yeah, I think they're both going to advance. You'll see like how many wins each team is going to get here. But India is one of those teams right now. And first game, I think they beat Pakistan. There, said it. That could be a little bit of a hot take, according to some people. But I think it's realistic, because on the second time that they faced each other in the Asia Cup, Pakistan obviously beat India. Additionally, last year in the T20 World Cup, Pakistan beat India. So I think India's wanting revenge for both of those 2 occasions. And that's why I think India will start out by beating Pakistan, getting back into that group they had for the past few years, making sure they consistently beat Pakistan in these big competitions and, doing better than them in that area. And so for the next 4 games, win, 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 win. That's right. India wins all their games in this Super 12 stage of the tournament. They just have it kind of easy compared to some other teams like Sri Lanka. They had to face England, they have to face Australia, they have to face New Zealand. That's like 3 really, really good teams. They have to face India, they have to face Pakistan, who's like up there with them on par. and then maybe South Africa and Bangladesh give them a tough time, but I think that's 5 for 5. Like, there's something else to say for me. I think they win all these games. And Namibia, Namibia is the next team, and I think they lose to Bangladesh, like I mentioned earlier. I think they lose to India. They'll lose to Pakistan. Next 2 games, I think those will be losses, just because at the end of the day, West Indies and South Africa, I already talked about how good South Africa is, and West Indies, they just have, again, better team all around. They have batsmen like Evan Lewis, Rohan Powell, Brandon King is starting to, get better, and with all-rounders, you have Jason Holder. With bowlers, you have people like Shane Thomas, Akil Hussain. And at the end of the day, it's just better than what Namibia has, and so I think West Indies are going to get a win there against Namibia. Now, Pakistan. I already mentioned they lose to India, but I do think Pakistan will get 4 straight after that loss. I'd say they also have it kind of easy in this group, just like India kind of did, compared to like other teams in the tournament. Like, talked about Sri Lanka, I talked about Afghanistan's in the same group. I think they're in the same situation as Sri Lanka when it comes to what teams they're facing, how difficult those teams are. Pakistan, while they will maybe have lost against India, as I predicted, I still do think they will win those next 4 games quite comfortably, quite easily. And now we're moving on to South Africa. South Africa, they will beat the West Indies, they will beat Bangladesh, starting off with 2 straight wins. Our next 2 won't go their way against India and Pakistan again. India and Pakistan are just 2 of the best teams in the world. They're going to be 2 of the best teams overall in the tournament. And so, yeah, I don't think South Africa is going to beat those teams. They will give them a tough time, I think, but they won't end up beating them at the end of the day. And Namibia, that's going to be a good one for South Africa. They get 3 wins out of 5, but those 2 losses, I can't really blame them as much for it, because it's against India and Pakistan, 2 very, very good teams. However, if they do end up beating one of those teams, I will be quite surprised. No matter, I don't know who it is. If they end up being India, I'll be very surprised. Pakistan, same thing. And now we're going on to the West Indies. I don't think they're going to beat South Africa. Don't think they're going to beat Pakistan. Don't think they're going to beat Namibia. I do think... I said they won't beat Namibia. I said they won't beat Bangladesh. They will beat Namibia. And they won't beat India. So they will finish with only 1 win in the Group 12. And now we're moving on to the Group 2 standings. It's going to be India and Pakistan in the top 2 of their group. So now it is time for the top 4, the semifinals. Alright, here we are in the semifinals of the T20 World Cup 2022. So, top 2 in Group A, or Group 1 I should say, were England and Australia. Top 2 in Group 2 were India and Pakistan. So, the semifinals matchups would be the first place of Group A, or Group 1, first place of Group 1 versus second place in Group 2, and then first place in Group 2, second place in Group 1 will compete in this group as well. So second place in Group 1 was England, first place in Group 2 was India, so they're going to be the first semifinal matchup. I do think this is going to be a very hard fought battle. England and India have a pretty big rivalry. I'd say it's definitely like the 3rd biggest rivalry that India has. I think that Pakistan and Australia rivalries with India are bigger than their England rivalry. But their England rivalry, I'd say, is definitely a solid 3rd. Considering like how good the teams have been throughout the years, how good they are now, like the matches they've had recently, whether it's like in all formats of the game, Test, ODI, T20, but this is T20. And with T20 specifically, they've had some matchups recently, specifically recently this year, with the India tour of England. I think we all know how that went. But first finalist, I don't think that this is biased. I genuinely do believe that India will make it out of the semifinals this year. That's right, I have India in the finals. Come at me if you want to. But here's the thing. Virat Kohli, I do believe he's back in form. I think he will have his best tournament in a while. Like, I think the last best tournament he had was like 2016, 2017, maybe 2019 World Cup. He didn't do as well as like Rohit Sharma did, obviously. 2020 World Cup, I think he had his fair share of struggles in that tournament because obviously he wasn't really in form. But that century in the Asia Cup, that's going to give him a lot of confidence to do better. And while after that century he hasn't been doing like that good, like he hasn't, that was the last country he scored. But that was the last century he scored in the Asia Cup. But I feel like he's going to get at least one more during this T20 World Cup tournament. Doesn't have to be against England necessarily, but he's going to get against someone. But I do think that him, Rohit Sharma, all of the other supporting cast that they have, the list is really long. It just goes on and on. But I do think India will get the win over England in the semi-final. And now Australia, Pakistan. This is going to be another really, really good matchup. They both have very stacked sides. Australia got David Warner. You have Mitchell Starc. You have Josh Hazelwood, Glenn Maxwell. A lot of talent on that side. And then Pakistan, you obviously have Babar Azam, who is the best, if not, he's at least one of the best T20 batsmen in the world right now. Mohammad Rizwan, amazing. Shaheen Afridi, amazing. Shadab Khan, also very good. Again, both of these sides are very, very stacked. It's a really tough decision for who to pick here, but I am going to go with the hosts, Australia. And here's the thing, like I said, they're the hosts. The hosts kind of have an advantage here. Like we've all seen the Cricket World Cup. India was one of the host nations in 2011 for that tournament. They won the tournament. Australia hosted, or at least co-hosted, the 2015 World Cup. They won that tournament. England co-hosted the 2019 World Cup. They won that tournament. So like that kind of pattern there, I feel like it can kind of be brought onto this, you know what I mean? So while it hasn't necessarily been completely replicated here in the T20 World Cup as much as it has in the ODI World Cup, it's still kind of a thing that happens. Like, you know, the hosts just do very well because they are more familiar with their playing conditions than anyone else. So naturally, I think that Australia just get the win here and move on to the final. So, final is India versus Australia. This is going to be an amazing game. It's going to come down to the final over. 100% is going to come down to the final over, I think. India, or whoever bats first, India or Australia, they're going to put up a good total. I'd say that one of them, whoever goes first in the innings, they're going to put up at least 200 runs. I think with their batting and how all of it comes together, one of those teams, whoever bats in the first innings, is going to have at least 200 runs in total. And then second innings, final over, they're probably going to need, like, I'm going to say that they're going to need a double-digit number of runs to win the game. Like, it could be 10 runs in 6 balls, 11 runs in 6 balls in that one over. They're going to need something like that. They're going to need a double-digit number of runs. And the team that's going to clutch out and get a few boundaries to ensure they win the tournament for their country is India. Yes, I'm going with India as my pick for the World T20 this year. I just think that they have a lot of confidence. Yes, they didn't do well in the Asia Cup, but I still think with like how things have been going, like South Africa, they looked pretty good. While I do think they had their struggles in these big tournaments recently, especially with the Asia Cup, with the World T20 last year. They have had their fair share of struggles, but I do think that this is the year in which they can go big and finally win that World T20 trophy for the first time since the very first edition back in 2007. It's been 15 years since we've seen India lift that World T20 trophy. It's been 11 years since we've seen India lift any ICC trophy. So I really want them to do it this year. I really think it can happen too. And if not this year, then considering how the Cricket World Cup's been going and how hosts have been winning it, India's hosting the tournament next year in 2023. So I think it's fair to say they don't win this year in the World T20. They're gonna win it then just because of how that trend's going. But this is my pick for the World T20. We'll give India a little trophy while they're out. There you go. So, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Let me know about your predictions down below in the comments. I would love to hear it. And as always, hope you have an amazing day, and peace.